The third temple, the red heifer, and the Temple Mount. These are not just stories from the dusty pages of prophecy. They are alive, pulsing with a power that shakes Jerusalem and the world beyond. Imagine this. For nearly 2,000 years, generations have whispered, prayed, and waited, never daring to hope that what was written in Bible prophecy could come to life in their lifetime. And yet, here it is, tangible, real, and charged with destiny. Why now? Why has every preparation, the perfect red heifer, the sacred vessels, the trained priests, the Sanhedrin, and even the crimson dye, aligned as if time itself has bent to a divine schedule? Could it be that something hidden for millennia is finally revealing itself? In this video, you will witness the astonishing truth of the Third Temple, understand why each stone, every ritual, and every song carries a meaning far beyond what the eye can see. You will see the way prophecy, politics, and faith collide, how the world trembles at the edges of fulfillment, and why this moment may change everything you thought you knew about history, faith, and the end times. As you watch, notice the whispers of God in the details, the quiet power in preparation, the urgency in obedience. And while the world debates, you can pause, reflect, and consider. How ready is your heart for what is coming? Let yourself be drawn into the unfolding story of Israel, of faith restored, of prophecy moving from page to reality. Comment your thoughts, share your awe, and let this vision awaken a spark within you. For the temple is not just about stone and ritual. It is a call to witness, to believe, and to rise with the flow of history itself. The perfect red heifer, ashes of purification. For centuries, whispers of prophecy spoke of a creature so rare, so fragile, that its very existence seemed impossible, the red heifer. Not a blemish, not a single white or black hair to stain its coat of fire. For nearly 2,000 years, Israel waited in silence. And then, against all odds, 5 perfect red heifers were flown from the fields of Texas into the heart of Jerusalem. Imagine the scene. A crowd of believers watching as the cargo doors opened, and hope itself walked down a ramp on 4 legs. This was not just livestock, it was prophecy in motion. According to Numbers 19, only the ashes of this perfect heifer can cleanse the priests, making worship in the Third Temple possible again. Without it, the temple remains a dream. With it, the dream becomes reality. Think about it. A single animal, raised under rabbinical supervision, inspected hair by hair, can unlock the future of faith for millions. The last attempts to find one ended in heartbreak. A single blemish, a scar, even 2 wrong-colored hairs disqualified the candidates. But now, prophecy stands alive, breathing, waiting. And the question is haunting. When the fire consumes the heifer and the ashes are gathered, will it mark the beginning of the end times? Will the world watch the smoke rise and realize that the countdown has begun? The lesson here is sobering. God's plans often hinge on the smallest details. A perfect coat of hair, a ritual unchanged for millennia. It teaches us that no act of obedience is too small, no command too trivial. And as this ritual approaches, we are called to ask, what is God preparing us for, and are we ready? Sacred vessels, gold, fire, and faith. Restored. Step into Jerusalem today, and hidden in plain sight are treasures worth more than palaces. A 95-pound menorah of pure gold, valued at over $2 million, glistens under the lights, not as an artifact, but as a tool waiting for holy fire. Over 60 sacred vessels have been recreated, forged exactly as the Scriptures command. Incense burners to release the same fragrance Moses smelled in the wilderness. Silver trumpets to echo the tones that once shook the walls of Jericho. Measuring cups calibrated to ancient standards, every line etched with devotion. Why spend years and millions of dollars creating vessels if no temple is coming? Why prepare instruments of worship if no symphony will be played? The answer is chilling and beautiful, because the stage is being set. Imagine walking through the Temple Institute, gazing upon these vessels and realizing they are not museum pieces, they are future headlines. The comparison is striking. In Rome, ancient relics are locked behind glass. In Jerusalem, they are polished and waiting for use. The vessels remind us that prophecy is not vague poetry. It is concrete, it is gold and silver, it is weight and fire. The lesson here is about preparation. Just as craftsmen poured their lives into shaping these tools, we too are called to prepare our hearts. When the lampstand glows again, will our own light be ready to shine, or will it be dimmed by distraction? Priestly training, sons of Levi. Remember. Picture this. Under the blazing sun of the Judean desert, young men clad in white rehearse rituals unseen for 2 millennia. They are Kohanim, descendants of Levi, practicing sacrifices their ancestors last performed when Rome burned the Second Temple to the ground. In 2015, they shocked the world by reenacting the Passover offering, a sight that had not been witnessed since the time of Christ. This is not nostalgia. This is education, preparation, transformation. Imagine their trembling hands as they lift the knife, chant the ancient blessings, feel the weight of generations pressing upon their shoulders. These men are not actors. They are heirs to sacred duty. Every movement, every prayer, every song is a rehearsal for a day that may soon arrive. The Temple Institute built a school in Mizpeh, Jericho, to ensure no detail is forgotten. Ritual purity, sacred songs, the handling of blood and fire, all restored with painstaking accuracy. For Christians, this echoes the words of Hebrews, the old order preparing the way for something greater. For Jews, it is the revival of destiny itself. The lesson here is powerful. Knowledge lost for generations can be restored if the hunger is deep enough. What wisdom lies dormant in your own lineage, waiting to be revived? Just as the sons of Levi remember their calling, perhaps we too are being summoned to remember ours. The temple blueprints, plans, written in heaven and on paper. These are not sketches for dreams. They are operational blueprints, approved by modern engineers, wired for electricity, designed with plumbing, and reinforced with steel. Yet every measure aligns with the cubits of Scripture. On the hills of Jerusalem stands a scale model, 150 meters by 150 meters in the real design, where pilgrims walk and weep as they imagine the future. It is one thing to hope for prophecy, it is another to draft it, line by line, into blueprints ready to be built tomorrow. The symbolism is undeniable. Just as God commanded Moses to build the tabernacle to exact specifications, so too this generation has drawn the plans of the third temple. The comparison to Noah's ark is inescapable. When Noah began cutting wood, the world laughed. When the first stones are laid, the world may tremble. The lesson here is that faith is not only spiritual, It is architectural. It is lines on paper, costs calculated, models displayed. Faith without action is dead, and blueprints are action incarnate. They testify that prophecy is no longer a distant hope. It is a project waiting for green light. High priest garments, threads of prophecy. Every thread tells a story. For over a decade, artisans labored to recreate the garments of the high priest, exactly as Exodus 28 commands. A breastplate shimmering with 12 authentic gemstones, sapphire, emerald, diamond, ruby, each engraved with the name of a tribe of Israel. The ephod woven with threads of gold and blue, scarlet and purple, colors that once danced in the flicker of temple fire. These are not costumes, they are living prophecy. And yet, the haunting question remains: who will wear them? Only one man can serve as high priest, and his selection will divide or unite the nation. In the book of Zechariah, the high priest Joshua stood clothed in filthy garments until the angel clothed him anew. So too today, the garments wait for the chosen man, whoever he may be. The lesson is piercing. Prophecy always narrows to a personal choice. It is not abstract. It demands a name, a face, a man willing to carry the weight. What if you were chosen? Would you be ready to wear the mantle, or would the stones burn heavy on your chest? The garments whisper to us, destiny always requires preparation, and preparation always takes time. Altar stones, the voice of Deuteronomy. At the shores of the Dead Sea, the lowest point on earth, workers gathered stones untouched by metal, each rock lifted with bare hands, chosen because Deuteronomy 27 commanded, "Build an altar of uncut stones." These stones have waited for thousands of years, formed by the Creator himself, untouched by human pride. Imagine the moment when these stones are assembled into an altar, the first fire lit upon them, the first sacrifice offered in 2 millennia. The symbolism is staggering. Modern skyscrapers rise with steel and machines, but the altar of God must rise with humility and obedience. This is a lesson written in stone. What is holy cannot be shaped by man's tools. It must remain as God made it. For Christians, the imagery points to Christ himself, the cornerstone rejected by builders, yet chosen by God. For Jews, it fulfills a command from Moses himself, and for the world, it serves as a reminder. When prophecy comes to life, it begins not with grand gestures, but with simple obedience. A stone untouched, a heart unbroken, a people prepared. The Sanhedrin, authority restored. In the heart of Jerusalem, a chamber waits, designed with circular seats for 71 men, echoing the chamber of hewn stone, where the ancient Sanhedrin once gathered. These are not just empty chairs, they are thrones of judgment, a revival of an authority believed lost since Rome scattered the Jewish nation. Today, a modern Sanhedrin has already convened, debating laws, issuing proclamations, and preparing for the governance of the Third Temple. Imagine their voices rising, not in political squabbles, but in the cadence of Scripture, reclaiming decisions that once guided kings. For centuries, the Jewish people wandered without this council, divided and often leaderless. Now, in a world of chaos, they are returning to their roots. The comparison is sharp. While nations look to parliaments and the United Nations, Israel prepares a body that claims a direct mandate from God. This is not theory, it is reality. Each ruling they issue sends ripples across the prophetic landscape. The lesson is clear. Leadership is never truly lost. It only waits for the appointed time to rise again. And as the Sanhedrin claims its place, we must ask ourselves, what authority governs our own lives? Do we let the noise of the world rule us, or do we align with eternal truth? Levitical choir, the music of the temple, returns. Close your eyes and imagine the sound. Silver trumpets blasting, harps strumming, and a chorus of voices singing the Psalms of David as smoke rises from the altar. This is no dream, it is happening again. The Levitical choir has been reassembled, descendants of Levi training in ancient songs not heard since the Second Temple burned in 70 A.D. During the Feast of Tabernacles, they gathered at the southern wall of the Temple Mount, singing Psalm 27 as worshippers wept. Think of the power of music. It moves nations, heals broken hearts, unites divided souls. When these sacred songs return, they do more than stir nostalgia. They awaken prophecy. Compare it to Gregorian chants in the cathedrals of Europe or the Islamic call to prayer echoing from minarets, sounds that shape civilizations. But this choir is unique. Their notes are not just melodies, they are weapons of spiritual warfare, breaking the silence of centuries. For a world drowning in noise, their harmonies call us back to the divine. The lesson here is personal. Music is not entertainment. It is a bridge between heaven and earth. When you hear these ancient songs rise again, ask yourself, what song is your life singing? Is it discord and chaos, or harmony with God's plan? Comment your thoughts. Do you believe sound itself can shift prophecy? Crimson dye, the forgotten color restored. For nearly 2,000 years, a single shade of red was lost to the earth. The ancient crimson dye, demanded in Scripture, vanished when the temple was destroyed. Scholars wrote about it, mystics dreamed of it, but no one could reproduce it. Then, in our generation, a breakthrough. Professor Zohar Amar uncovered the secret. Tiny worm eggs, processed with forgotten techniques, released the very same crimson described in Exodus. Think about that. A color thought dead has returned to life, just in time for the garments of the high priest and the veil of the temple. This is not coincidence. It is divine timing. Imagine seeing that red woven again into the ephod, shining in the sacred curtain, mixed with the ashes of the red heifer to complete the purification ritual. The symbolism is overwhelming. Crimson for blood, crimson for atonement, crimson for sacrifice. A lost thread of history stitched back into the fabric of prophecy. Compare it to other great rediscoveries, the Rosetta Stone unlocking ancient Egypt, the Dead Sea Scrolls revealing hidden scriptures. But this dye is not just for historians. It is for worship, for ritual, for prophecy in motion. The lesson is healing. Nothing is ever truly lost in God's plan. Even what disappears for centuries can return in the moment it is needed most. Perhaps your own life feels like that lost dye, forgotten, overlooked, invisible. Yet when the time is right, your color, your purpose, your song will shine again. And as this crimson flows back into history, it whispers of a greater truth. Prophecy does not fade. It waits, it rests, and then it rises. These three preparations, the restored Sanhedrin, the reborn Levitical choir, and the rediscovered crimson dye, are not isolated events. They are threads woven into a single tapestry, drawing the world closer to the moment when the third temple will no longer be a dream, but a reality. Each carries its own lesson, its own warning, its own hope. Authority is returning, music is rising, color is shining once again. And together they declare, prophecy is alive, moving, unstoppable. Political momentum, from whisper to roar. For decades, the Temple Mount was a place of silence for the Jewish people. After 1967, even those who ascended walked quietly, forbidden to pray. But today, something unthinkable is happening. Tens of thousands of Jews now step onto the mount openly, praying, singing, bowing. What began as a whisper has become a roar, echoing across Jerusalem and into the halls of governments worldwide. Imagine standing there, where prophets walked, where Jesus taught, where Solomon built his temple, and hearing modern voices rising in worship. This is not mere symbolism, it is momentum, building like a wave. Activists within Israel's parliament are openly calling for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. At first, they were ignored, ridiculed, dismissed. But like all movements that change history, their persistence is reshaping reality. Think of the civil rights marches, dismissed as impossible until they shifted the soul of America. Or the fall of the Berlin Wall, once unimaginable until it crumbled overnight. The Temple movement is following the same path. The lesson is simple but powerful. Change often begins quietly, but when conviction burns deep, no force can silence it. And as you listen, you must ask yourself, what whispers in your own life are waiting to become a roar? Comment your thoughts. Is this rising momentum unstoppable, or will politics crush it again? The great obstacles. 5 walls of resistance. Yet momentum does not erase resistance. Before prophecy rises, barriers must be faced. The first wall is the Dome of the Rock, sacred to Islam, standing directly on the site of the ancient temples. Any attempt to touch it could ignite global war. The second wall is political pressure. The United Nations, world powers, and hostile neighbors surround Israel like a ring of fire. A single announcement about rebuilding could spark condemnation and violence overnight. The third wall is division among Jews themselves. Some say, build now. Others warn, wait for the Messiah. Unity is fragile, and prophecy demands agreement. The fourth wall is global religious tension. For Muslims, the temple's rise is a threat. For Jews, it is a promise. For Christians, it is a sign of the end times. No neutral ground exists when prophecy collides with faith. The fifth and final wall is spiritual warfare. The temple is not just stone, it is a throne where God once dwelled, and the enemy will resist with every weapon of fear, division, and deception. These walls seem immovable, yet prophecy declares they will fall. Think of Jericho. Its walls collapsed not by siege, but by a shout of faith. The lesson is this: obstacles are not proof of defeat, but invitations for faith to rise higher. What walls stand in your own life today? Which ones are meant to crumble when you choose to march in faith? Future scenarios. What might come? The world is holding its breath, waiting for the first stone to be laid. How will it happen? One possibility is a political treaty, a deal that allows Jews to share the mount with Muslims, opening the way for the altar and sacrifices. Another is a war or attack that shakes the Middle East. clearing the ground through chaos and bloodshed. Or perhaps it will be something miraculous, an event so undeniable it unites the divided Jewish people overnight. History reminds us that God often works through kings and crises. Cyrus of Persia, a pagan ruler, unexpectedly allowed the exiles to rebuild the Second Temple. Antiochus's persecution led to the Maccabean revolt and the rededication of the altar. In the same way, the rise of the Third Temple may come from a moment the world least expects. Imagine the shock of waking to news that construction has begun, cameras broadcasting as stones are laid and prayers rise. The impact would be global. Stock markets trembling, religions colliding, prophecy accelerating. The lesson is sobering. Prophecy rarely unfolds in comfort. It shakes the ground, stirs nations, and demands decision. Ask yourself, when the temple rises, will you watch with awe, fear, or faith? Reflection. Why this matters for all nations. This is not only Israel's story, it is the world's story. For Jews, the temple is destiny fulfilled. For Christians, it is a sign that Jesus' return is near. As the Apostle Paul wrote of the Antichrist sitting in the temple, for Muslims it is a threat to one of their holiest sites. And for the watching nations, it is a geopolitical earthquake. The rise of the Third Temple touches every corner of the globe because it touches the heart of prophecy itself. Revelation speaks of measuring the temple of God, a vision of events that reach far beyond Jerusalem. The crimson dye, the red heifer, the vessels of gold, these are not curiosities, they are countdown markers. The real question is not if the temple will rise, but when, and how prepared humanity will be when it does. And here lies the personal challenge. Are you building a temple of stone or a temple of the heart? Prophecy may unfold in headlines, but its true impact is measured in souls. As nations rage and religions collide, the invitation is clear. Prepare not just for events in Jerusalem, but for transformation within yourself. If the temple rises in our lifetime, it will not only divide the nations, it will reveal the hearts of men. And perhaps that is the greatest prophecy of all. The moment is here. After millennia of whispers and shadows, the stones, the garments, the sacred vessels, and the songs have all converged, each one carrying a weight of destiny that shakes the very soul of Jerusalem. Imagine standing on the mount, feeling the heat of the sun, the wind whispering through the olive trees, and realizing that every prophecy you ever read in Scripture is moving closer, faster, more alive than you could have imagined. The Third Temple is no longer a dream locked in ancient scrolls. It is breathing, pulsing, a heartbeat in the center of history. Every red heifer, every crimson thread, every trained priest, every stone untouched by human hands, every note of the Levitical choir is a signal, a living declaration that the world is about to witness a convergence of faith, power, and destiny like never before. You can almost hear the echoes, Daniel's visions, Zechariah's words, Revelation's measuring rod. They are stepping off the page into reality. And yet, it is not just the monuments, the artifacts, or the rituals that matter. It is the hearts of those who watch, who believe, who tremble at the unfolding story. Can we see it clearly enough to understand the weight of this moment? For some, it is awe. For others, fear. For those with eyes to see, it is the unmistakable whisper of God's timing, moving with precision through centuries, through wars, through silence. Imagine the political storms, the religious debates, the spiritual battles surging as the first stone is laid, the first prayer rises, the first hymn pierces the sky. The world will stop for a heartbeat and watch. And what of us, the ones standing in our living rooms, walking our streets, scrolling our feeds? Are we ready to recognize the significance, the divine choreography that has been orchestrated across thousands of years? The vessels made of gold, the smoke of incense, the echoing psalms, they are not mere props. They are instruments of awakening, calling the faithful, challenging the complacent, inviting every soul to reflect. Whose side are you on when history and prophecy collide? Think about it. The very stones speak of obedience. The garments of the high priest whisper of purity. The choir of Levi reminds us that even the smallest song can move nations. And as the world debates, argues, and watches with breath held, the Temple Institute, the visionaries, the believers, are quietly shaping destiny with every careful preparation. There is a pulse here that reaches beyond politics, beyond religion, beyond geography. It strikes at the very core of belief. And in that moment, we are reminded that faith is not passive. It is active, vibrant, relentless. What will we do when the prophecy touches our own lives, when the echoes of the temple call us to witness, to participate, to awaken our own hearts to a purpose greater than ourselves? This is the lesson hidden within the gold, the stone, the dye, the smoke, and the voices. That God's timing cannot be rushed, manipulated, or ignored. It arrives exactly as He intends, and the world trembles in anticipation. And as we absorb this, as we allow the weight of centuries to settle upon us, there is a subtle, healing truth. The same power that orchestrates the rise of the temple can orchestrate restoration, courage, and light within our own hearts. Every detail, the red heifer, the crimson threads, the Sanhedrin, the Levitical songs, is a reminder that even the smallest acts of obedience, faith, and preparation ripple across time, shaping destinies unseen. And maybe, just maybe, if you feel a spark, a resonance, a stirring within, you might share it, comment it, breathe it into conversation, so that the awakening is not only witnessed, but multiplied. What do you feel as you imagine the first fire, the first prayer, the first note of prophecy made flesh? Are you amazed, fearful, inspired, or challenged? Could it be that the moment of the temple's return is also a mirror for our own souls, asking us to rise, to shine, to prepare our own hearts, our own lives for the divine orchestration that moves silently, steadily, irresistibly toward fulfillment? The stones, the incense, the voices, the colors, the rituals, they are calling. And even as you watch, even as you listen, the message is clear. Prophecy is alive, history is breathing, and you are part of the unfolding story. And so, as you reflect on this, allow the awe, the wonder, the energy of what is coming to heal, to awaken, to ignite a light in your spirit. Let it remind you that even in times of darkness, even in moments of uncertainty, God's plan is moving forward, perfect, unstoppable, and radiant. And if this story touches something deep within, if it brings a sense of hope, inspiration, or light into your day, consider sharing that spark, letting your own voice rise alongside the songs of Levi, the prayers on the Mount, and the echoes of history unfolding. Every awareness, every reflection, every engagement with this story carries forward the energy of hope, restoration, and divine timing. connecting us all to the pulse of prophecy, to the heartbeat of God, to the undeniable reality that what has been foretold is now moving, alive, and calling us to witness, to feel, and to rise.